Welcome to Home's Room. Just like homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin.
So, playing this intro in the studio as we record is never not funny to me because it never fails. I have to hit a button that says preview or live. And every time I usually look down and check to make sure it says live. So that means that it's playing live. And this is one of those times where I look down and I was like, play. No, wait, live, then play. So there was a delay at the beginning of this episode, which I'm going to leave there because it's going to be that moment of like, you could probably hear some clicking, like, is this playing? Is this not? Give you a heart attack like I do to myself sometimes where like my podcast is started but hasn't actually started, or the song like has a weird break at the end where it's just quiet and you're like, did my music stop? So there you go. Good luck. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Anyway, what's up, Caitlin?
We keep it real here at Home's Room. You know, is what it is.
Yeah, no sugarcoating, no fake, no nothing. I am an unfiltered individual as far as it goes, except for I guess when I use filters to like change the lighting of a photo, not actually me, but just like make the photo look more dramatic because I like dramatic photos.
I'm doing well, homie. Another day, another dollar. Another fun episode of Home's Room, and one that I'm excited to get on my soapbox for. So you just let me know when I can let loose, homie.
Yeah. First, I just want to say, in our current timeline, over the weekend, I had this idea. The NHL playoffs are going on right now. RIP Caps, we got swept, which sucks, but we also shouldn't have been there in the first place per everybody's books. So the fact that we even made it was like, I'm cool. I didn't care what happened. But I was like, let's have some fun, because I knew that the games that we were going to be watching were not going to be fun. So I was like, season 2, playoffs, episodes. So I went through, I looked at the analytics for the episodes. So it was a true 1v8 kind of setup. So the best episode for interviews faced off against the lowest, I guess, listened, just to see, and, you know, stacked it up that way. So we had 6 interviews and then 2 of our episodes, and our episodes, that it made it really hard because we have an equal number and I didn't want it to be like a huge bracket. So I was like, we'll just do 2. So we did season 2 kickoff, and we did stress awareness, and I didn't know which way it was going to go, and I put it on the side of the bracket that like it had the best chance of like making it maybe down and not just like getting slaughtered from the beginning. Cheated a little bit because I set up the bracket, but we still faced off against our own episodes. And then the episodes with the interviews, those, like, Saturday got heated, and I could see people coming and voting, and then like I wasn't looking at the votes to like see who voted for what, because that's not fair. So I just looked to see like who the last person was that voted, to make sure that people were still voting, and if I needed to like close it now just because I could or whatever, or like refresh people. But it went on all day, and it was so back and forth, and you could tell that somebody either was like, hey, go, make sure you go vote, because it would be like one episode would be like pulling slightly closer, and then out of nowhere like 2 people would vote, and it would be like lopsided again. And that was pretty fun. But as we stand in our current timeline with what's happening, ultimately Simo and Spencer McKenzie Brown too are the ones going for the playoff victory and the championship of our first episode playoffs. And I could not have predicted that, because some episodes like just dominated our plays, which is awesome. And they were dominating that first round, but you know, upsets happened in the second round. And now we have, you know, I like the way I set it up, and the way I posted about it today was, you know, filmmaker versus singer-songwriter, videographer versus musician. Like you can't script it any better. And these two, I love them so much. They are going back and forth in the comments, and I love it. I hope that they keep that up. And next week, when, you know, next Saturday when I put up the poll for the finals, I hope people show up and like really go hard for these episodes. I hope people listen to them. This coming week, I'm gonna keep like trying to remind people, yeah, go listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I just love that this happened literally because I was just sitting there, and I work at a school, and I was sitting there and I was like, what would be fun is if we did a playoff episode. And I was like, I wonder how I'd set it up. And I am one of those people where if I have an idea, I see it through to the friggin' end, because I can't not, especially a creative one, especially one that like seems like it might be fun. And I did not expect it. I put in a little bit of effort. Like I said, I looked at the analytics, I set up the bracket, I got the pictures, I did all that kind of stuff, did the graphic, but I did not expect it to be as fun. And then I saw some people on Saturday at an event, and they were talking about it, and they were like, man, I'm just glad that like Instagram had like the potential to set that up. I mean, I was like, yeah, it really didn't, only in the fact that like I know like you can ask a question, a poll, and get the results. So that was really fun, and I hope that people vote on Saturday, like I said. But if you want to go back and look at it, that post will still be up, and you'll see who the winner is. And it's like, now if we do it again next year, it's like I have to have a prize or something for like the
100%.
winner. Like it became something bigger, and we keep doing these things on a whim. Like Boss Babes in general started out as a whim, and now we're getting close to our next installment, season 2's evolution of Boss Babes. So that's pretty fun. I don't know, like all these random ideas that I don't think are going to take off because I'm a random ass individual is like the things that take off the best, and I love that. So thanks, people out there. I appreciate you.
I just want to ask, Matt, I'm sorry if you have to go back and edit and cut this section out. I don't see a timer on the top left of my screen that we're recording. Do you have one?
Yeah, I got 2 little red dots, and it says record all over my screen.
All right. Well, okay. I love this concept, and I also love that we are this far into recording episodes together where now we have like annual traditions for the podcast of episodes that we, have advance notice to prepare for, episodes that we know our homies love and love to listen to, and also really love this concept of continually inviting some of our interviewees back for year later interviews. It's so freaking cool. It's such a cool ride. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of it, homie.
The year later thing again was a random idea that I had. It wasn't even like an intentional thing, and then it just so happened to have Spencer back on like right at the same time that his episode would have dropped last year. It was again completely unintentional. It just happened, like the cards fell that way. And those are 2 homies that I've had since I was in my late teens, early 20s, I believe. So like that's been a while. So it's like I have no choice but to make those episodes happen again. I will say, I don't know if you've looked at the doc today after I updated the thing, but I can't wait to make you look at it right before we end this episode, because you reminded me of a thing. We have these conversations, and I always find it funny because you'll bring something up and be like, I don't know if we talked about it. It's like, yes, we have talked about it. And there's audio evidence that we have talked about said thing. And it always makes me giggle. So something that you've been beating me up about and like making comments on for the millions of episodes that we've recorded together in the last year, I finally decided to do and have an episode about. So you'll be excited, but you can't look at the doc until the end.
Okay.
So
Heard.
We'll sit on that. But today we're doing a thing that like I don't want to say I grit my teeth doing, but Caitlin is educating me on some TikTokery, and I am super excited. Also, have you heard the stupid thing about wheels versus like, are there more wheels or doors in the world? Have you heard that? Is that from TikTok too?
I don't think it's on TikTok. I've seen some, like something along the same lines where it's like husbands will ask their wives, are there more doors or windows in the world or something like that?
Yeah. So I got asked the other day if wheels or doors, and I was like, well, doors. And then they specified that like wheels could be like even like on a Lego wheel. And I was like, well, then wheels, because there's like that.
Well, there are Lego doors too, Matt.
Yeah, but there's not nearly as many Lego doors as there is wheels.
All right. Okay. Before we fall down that rabbit hole, maybe edit on the dock as another episode idea. But
no, I just wanted to know if this is similar to that or not, because all I know is what you put in the dock.
It might be similar in that it's like a trend, but it is far more complicated. So first and foremost, I wanted to have this conversation because it has kind of bled into a larger conversation about feminism and a woman's perspective about a man, and, you know, larger things that we'll highlight on that are super, super appropriate for this podcast. So first and foremost, I just want to start out this conversation by asking you.
You said appropriate for this podcast. Like, this podcast has like guidelines or like standards. There's no fucking standards here.
Okay. Well, then let me walk that back. Of course, any topic is going to be appropriate for this topic. Any topic is going to be appropriate for this podcast. This feels like a safe place, and you feel like a safe homie for me to have this conversation with, which is why I was so excited to have it with you.
Okay.
And also, Matt, when push comes to shove, there are very few things that make it like super obvious to me about like our interests about social media and maybe our age gap with our social media interests. It's always TikTok. Homies, every time I ask Matt, hey, did you see this or did you see that on TikTok? Matt, you're not on TikTok at all, right?
No, it just seems stupid to me. Like, I barely get behind Instagram Reels, which is the same thing. So
okay, we could have so many conversations about algorithms and all that. But at this point, this is maybe like the second episode that we are recording where I am here to educate Matt, my homie, about a trend on TikTok. The first thing that I want to do to introduce this conversation to you and to all of our listeners is to ask you a hypothetical question. So, Matt, if your daughters were trapped in the woods and they came across either a random bear or a random man that they did not know, what would you choose between the man or the bear, and why?
Well, they're gonna die either way because they're terrible outside. But I guess bear. I don't know. And the only reason I say bear is because I think that they would be more inclined to like be afraid of either. So at least with the bear, there's like no chance that it just seems safer. I don't know. Like,
okay,
the bear is more likely to walk away than a person be like, hey, I'm going to help you. And not that like help you in a bad way or anything. Just like this person could live in the woods and then you're still in the woods and you don't have a phone and it doesn't help you. The bear would help you just as much. So I'm going to say bear.
So essentially that question is the TikTok trend.
Yeah.
Is this hypothetical situation of us contemplating if me as a woman, if I'm trapped in the woods and I come across a random bear or a random man, what I would pick. But it's multi-layered, Matt, so just hang on. So first, I'm going to talk about why I was interested in this topic in the first place. First and foremost, I am active on TikTok. I love TikTok. I got like over 4,000 of you homies hanging out with me on TikTok. I randomly, Matt, I will share my link, my profile link. My username used to be Caitlin_Uding, but as a fun jab at open source and digital footprint, I changed my username to Schmaitlin Schmooting. So I'll send you the link and you can add it to the episode description. All homies come hang out with me on TikTok. Sometimes I get a little fire up my ass about a topic. And I've certainly had one about this one. So this was a topic that came across my FYP, my For You page.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course, homie.
Is it asking women or is it asking girls? Because like that's a different context. If it's asking...
It's asking everyone, but the specific interest about this topic has been the male reaction to it.
Yeah, so, but like, if it's Courtney, I would say random man. If it's my daughters, I would say differently. So like, I trust. So like, my kids are different because I don't know that they would trust I think they might trust a bear more than they would trust a random person. So,
all right, put a pin in that. I want to understand that perspective more, but let me paint this narrative for you.
Okay.
So that you understand where I'm coming from. First and foremost, this hypothetical perspective or this hypothetical has gone all over the place on TikTok now. It initially came across my For You page as this random loud man who said, there is no way you women are out of your damn minds if you are picking that you would rather be trapped in the bear or be trapped in the woods with a bear over a man. What I also would like to tell you, Matt, is I don't know if it's specific to the TikTok algorithm. I don't know if it's specific to, the time of day that I'm even on the app. 99%, if not 100% of all female perspectives that I have seen on this hypothetical situation, because I've seen so many at this point, we women are collectively and loudly and vocally saying that 100 times out of 100, we would pick the bear over the man. A few reasons. What is so interesting about this topic is that it's like a collective reality and universal understanding, like a foundational assumption that all women approach this hypothetical with that men have a hard time grasping. So first and foremost, let me tell you a stat. In one of my first TikToks that I posted about this topic, I published and researched the National Park Service here in the United States estimates that your likelihood of being injured by a bear, not even murked, just injured, is like 1 in 2.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also pulled another stat that intentional female homicide in the United States perpetrated by a man is like 6 in 100,000. Like those are your odds to be intentionally killed by a man. It gets a little more convoluted than that. What I am encouraged by are so many women that have come forward and tried to like make men understand our perspective, because men hear this and they instantly are like, you guys are so dumb. This is so stupid. Why would you actually pick a wild, murderous, scary bear? What part of the woods are you in? Where, like, what are you doing? Like, they're trying to get far more in the weeds with it than just the general question. So let me tell you about the male response before I get too much in the weeds about where we as women are coming from. First and foremost, even in a hypothetical situation, men have a hard time understanding consent. In our hypothetical, when we are still telling them no, when we are still telling them that we would pick the bear over a man, they do not accept that no. They do not understand that is not that is a perspective that we are coming from. They will also, as much as I hate this term, and Matt, I really hate it. I feel like it's so like it minimizes it, but it's so, and it's also like the connotation is just like so rampant in feminism, which is not a bad thing. But even using the term mansplaining already comes with like an emotional connotation behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Even all of us women that have come forward on TikTok, and there's tons of us who have said, we pick the bear over men. Men are still sitting back and mansplaining our fear of men to us. Outright rejection of our perspectives. Outright zero ability to be able to actually like sit back into themselves and like, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't have an actual grasp on the truth of this topic. They tell us, why would you pick a man? I don't understand. Like, why would you? Bears are terrified. They'll skin you alive. You're awake for all of it. With zero understanding that there are very few circumstances where I would ever have to be fearful of bears. It's every situation that I would have to be at least a little bit concerned, if not fearful of men. Some of my favorite responses to all these loud vocal men on TikTok that have been like, you know, this is a dumb perspective. You guys are so stupid that you're picking bears over men. People, women will stitch it and show a video of men posted videos on YouTube where they make themselves large and they yell at the bear and they tell the bear, go away, leave, go away. And guess what? The bear turns around and actually leaves. So understanding and processing the male perspective of so much of a collective, like I have been chronically online since fucking COVID, since quarantine happened. Okay. I have never seen a social media movement where women are so collectively in agreement about this. I've seen TikToks of women that have said like, you know, I had a friend, she was being robbed. There were two men who were just standing by watching it happen, and neither of them did anything. But I can tell you, if there was a woman that was there watching it, even if she was in like a wheelchair or was physically disabled, she would still step up and try to do something. Another big part of this TikTok trend has been, there was a news article that recently came out where there were 4 men who not only attacked and hurt it's like a large lizard, but they murdered it and then had intercourse with its dead body. And that's been a large thing. The men have been named, they've been outed on TikTok, and it's always followed with a comment section of, see, this is kind of like, this is why we would pick the bear. There's also been men who have just been angry, like so angry and like verbally abusive in their tone of just coming from like, I will send you some of these TikToks. I will send you links to all of them so that you can maybe understand. And what I tried not to do was send you too many TikToks about this topic because I wanted you to like go in kind of unbiased. Mm-hmm. But okay, here's the thing. So for me, as a micro influencer, tiny content creator on this platform, I came forward and gave my perspective. Almost every single man that populated in my comment section either said, I'm gay, I love men, I would still pick the bear, or it was a man that would call me out for my nose and say that I was Jew-splaining or that I was Jew-maxing, which is an incel term. Whole other episode for that. We can do an incel education episode about that.
We don't give them light. That's not a thing.
We don't, but like any term that has maxing after it, health maxing was born on 4chan. It was born in a social network of typically white supremacist incels. Is where when I say Jew maxing, it's not just like there's additional education that comes with that term. Is all I was.
No, yeah, that's fine.
All I was coming from with that.
We're not going to do an episode on them because I don't give a fuck. They can kick rocks and live under them. They go away.
Love it.
100% support. You don't get time on this show.
100% support that. So they just immediately go to white supremacy, racism, try to tell me that I'm Jew maxing and that I'm just fixating on a certain part of this topic. But then there are also men that are just so vehemently angry and aggressive and just yelling at women in their video responses to other women that have posted content about this topic, explaining why we would choose the bear. That their comment section all says, this is a perfect exhibit. This is a perfect example of why we would pick the bear. You are exactly feeding into and proving our point about why we would pick the bear. Another fun trolling thing that I've done, Matt, a little bit is I have said that bears are less emotional than men.
Fair.
I've stitched or like responded to some of the comments with videos saying like, this is exactly what I'm saying. Like, men are significantly more emotional than bears. Okay. Moving on to the next part about trying to explain this trend to you. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to have this conversation is because I am so proud of this generation of women, of content creators that are loudly and proudly putting our perspective on the internet, where I don't know in past generations if that would have actually happened. But there have been a few points that women have made that have punched me in the gut when I've heard it. One of them being one of many. And here's the other thing too. I am just an idiot floating on a rock with internet access, trying to do my best to explain to my homie about this perspective. It's so much more complicated than how I'm explaining it. So I apologize profusely if I don't do it grace or I don't do it knowledge, but this is the part of the conversation that I'm so passionate and maybe emotional about. There are women that come forward and have said, if a bear attacks me, I won't have to sit with it at the dinner table later. If a bear attacks me, I won't have to see it at a family reunion. If a bear attacks me, the bear will get euthanized. That's not how that works if it's the alternative. I am of the perspective that if a bear attacks me, the narrative is not, what was I wearing? It's not, who was I with? Why did I put myself in that situation? Maybe a little bit with the bear, but I don't know. Maybe we're getting a little too in the weeds here. But it's not a narrative of, how drunk were you? It's not a narrative of, were you asking to be attacked by a bear? It's also not a narrative of something that we saw in the past with the rapist, Brock Turner, who's now going by his middle name, Alan Turner. When his sexual assault rape case came forward, the larger narrative in media reporting of this topic was, he's such a promising young man. He's a collegiate swimmer. Why would this woman come forward and inconvenience this man? He has such a promising future. Who are his parents? How much money do they have? What is what's his character look like in the public eye compared to hers? That's not the narrative that happens if a bear attacks me. There are so many more topics, but perhaps the most intense gut punch that I saw from a female perspective on this topic was, the worst a bear can do is kill me. And this is also the point that I think is most difficult for men to understand. Most men do not understand what it's like to be fearful every time you're walking to your car by yourself at night. Most men do not understand what it's like to be fearful of men anywhere. The larger point of this conversation is that women are attacked by men everywhere, all the time, always, regardless as to who they're with, what they're wearing, their level of sobriety, whether they were asking for it or not. If they didn't give consent, it's an attack. Okay. What men consistently, at least on TikTok, who are vocal and are posting their perspectives about it, is they really do not understand from a bare bones perspective this mentality of, the worst a bear can do is kill me. Men have said, I don't understand that. And then you see other women stitching their videos saying, after I was SA'd or raped, I hated myself. I hated my body. I stopped taking care of myself. I only wore sweatpants and hoodies for the next 8 months of my life. I genuinely hated myself. I felt dirty. I felt disgusting. My own head was not a safe space. For women who survive these types of attacks, their basic foundational assumption of normalcy, their definition of normal, is completely disrupted. Their sense of identity is completely disrupted. And I think that's maybe leaning in, or that's maybe explaining partially the perspective of, a worst a bear can do is kill me. But what I'm encouraged about for this to be such a viral topic of conversation on TikTok, first and foremost, maybe pour one out if the US government's going to ban the app, because I've learned way more on TikTok than I ever did for 2 college degrees, let me tell you. I love TikTok. I'm so proud of how many women are vocal, are not only vocal, but are calling out these misogynistic men who are saying the most ignorant, dumb, stupid shit in their comments of just reducing us down to emotional pieces of meat that only exist for male pleasure. Is essentially what some of the hate comments boil down to. I am also so proud of the men who have come forward and been like, how many women have to repeatedly tell you the same thing, the same perspective, the same unified perspective for you guys to get it? How many women have to explain to you in a loud, emotional voice, like there are other men who are coming forward and almost being like, I just want to shake you all by the neck. Like, you guys, I want to shake you by the shoulders. You guys are not hearing women. What I'm also encouraged by, and what I recommend if you are in a place of comfort in your workplace, is it's been a really enlightening and educational vibe check, if you will, is what the younger kids call it, Matt. I don't know if we're young enough to be able to use that term, but it's been a vibe check. I work with predominantly men, and hot on my soapbox about this topic, if you can't tell for how many minutes I've been ranting, homie. But I came into work the next day and I asked, my older supervisors who have daughters that are in high school, this hypothetical question. And maybe it's because we work in criminal justice and law enforcement that we're maybe exposed to the worst parts of humanity, but almost overwhelmingly, all of them chose the bear. It's just been a very emotional conversation that has occurred on TikTok. And I just hope that if any of our male homies are hearing me rant about this and are confused or not understanding, I hope that not only do you have women in your life that you can have this conversation with, or approach this conversation with, but also that you are in a place where you can let go of all judgment, let go of all perceived notions of, gender roles and everything, and just hear us and learn about us and educate yourself about our perspective. Because one other thing about this conversation is that for men to be able to see, like, you can watch it on their face on some of these TikToks. One of the only ways that men can understand our perspective on this is if they are asked about their daughters or younger women that they know specifically, which is why I started this by asking you about your daughters, Matt, because so much of the content on TikTok has been centered on that.
That didn't change my opinion, for the record. Whether it was my daughters didn't change, for the simple fact that, like, I know where this was going. I understand the concept of the question. So, like, okay, the change of my answer for Courtney versus my daughters is the same answer. It's just different for different reasons. Like, that's not why I changed it. I'm not worried about the same thing that you think I would be worried about, and that's why my answer was different, I guess, is what I'll say.
Exactly. Also, one of the reasons why I felt safe enough with you to have this conversation with you, because there aren't too many men in my life that I would do this or feel comfortable with, even as somebody that's being vocal about it on TikTok. So thank you for being awesome, homie. But so many men, it seems like the only way that they can kind of understand, or like the only way that they can approach it from even a similar or somewhat parallel decision-making foundational assumption to approach this hypothetical to, is only if they are asked about other women that they know or their own children. So again, fully owning that I have only seen about this topic what my TikTok algorithm wants me to see. I've been very vocal about my perspective on it. I'm very proud and encouraged that my daughter will grow up in a world of social media where there are loud and strong, proud, female identifying women, whatever, content creators. And I'm also just proud that this is a time in social media where this is a topic of conversation to even be had. It feels like the right time and the right climate for it to be something that changes males' perspectives and maybe gives them a little bit more of an understanding about how different it is to be a woman in today's world than it is to be a man. So, any thoughts, Matt?
Well, why don't you ask me an actual question? Because you talked for like 20 minutes about a lot.
100%.
So I don't know where to even start with that.
First question. Were you surprised to hear that there were so many men who were angry with women that were trying to make them understand why we would pick the bear?
No.
Okay. Also, I want an explanation for that, but let me also take a step back further. Do you understand why women say we would rather pick the bear?
Yeah. I grew up with
Thank
9
you.
women, so yeah.
But even you just saying yeah in that tone is already such a fucking dub. It's such a win. For you to be a man and be like, yeah, you're already so much ahead of the curve about so many other males that have been putting content out on this topic. So that alone, I am encouraged by. You pass the vibe check, Matt. Did anything that I tell you about the female perspective on this topic, specifically, the worst a bear can do is kill me. After a bear attacks me, I won't have to sit at the dinner table with it or see it at a family reunion. Did those also come to you as a gut punch?
No, people are shitty, and although the situation is going to be heavily favored to one gender over the other, people are shitty in both directions, and having to deal with any kind of abuse from either side is always the worst that can happen is the bear kills me. So that goes both directions. So no, none of that is surprising and or hard to understand. Clearly that is the wild animal can't be blamed for being a wild animal. The human can always be blamed for what they should be doing and not doing. Yet we don't form it that way as a society. We blame the animal and absolve the human, and I don't understand that.
So for me, I think why it was such a gut punch to hear other women say that is that it was full transparency. I am a victim of sexual assault is what it is. Freshman summer after college. So long time ago, but still something that I struggled through. That being said, I am still reduced by my gender in the workplace. I am still catcalled. I am still verbally harassed, sexually harassed based on the outfits that I'm wearing in public settings, all of that. But for another woman to come forward and say, the worst a bear can do is kill me, or if a bear attacks me, I won't have to see it at a family reunion, is also an acknowledgement of how privileged I have been on this topic specifically, where maybe not even necessarily privileged is the best word to use. It's just that these situations and these specific types of attacks or assaults that have happened to other women have thankfully not happened to me. But I'm also looking at it through the lens as a parent, as a mother. I don't know. It's just been very emotional topic to navigate, and it's I instantly just get so angry when I see a man that is just so obtuse and not willing to understand a differing perspective, and is just so willing to completely ignore so much of a collective viewpoint on this. It's not just 1 or 2 or 10 or 40 or 40,000 women that are saying this. It's so many more than that. So maybe I'm also just feeling emotional about it because it's just a very emotionally triggering topic of conversation for women in general. I totally understand it. And kind of speaking to your perspective about, these things coming from both sides. I had this conversation with my husband, and the night after we had this hypothetical discussion, he was like, it like is disheartening for all these women to say that they would pick the bear. Like, as a man, it makes me feel gross. Like, it makes me feel like, you guys already, of course, not doing the best job quoting him directly. So give me some grace here. But he's like, it makes me feel like a predator just because I'm a man. And I understand where he's maybe coming from with that, but it's also leaning itself to another part of this conversation too, where it's like these stories of women who were being robbed at gunpoint and men were sitting back and watching it and not doing anything. Like, there's something to be said about men understanding the female perspective, but men also coming to a place where they need to be holding other men accountable. Because I have personally been in situations where men are being predatory, and I talk to another one of my male friends that's at this same location with me, and I'm like, do you not see what I'm seeing? Because I'm pissed. Are you not pissed? And they are like, can't get involved. Not our business. Not our problem. I'm like, you got 100 pounds on me and you're way closer to this dude than I am, and you're not wanting to step up and keep him accountable. Like, it's just a very convoluted conversation. And all these different avenues have been opened up into a larger topic of public conversation. So I just hope that men hear us, women also hear men, and all of us can have a constructive and productive conversation, because it's a very emotional topic of conversation.
I don't know if I'm supposed to talk there.
I think I've talked too much this episode, and I definitely want to hear your feedback about this.
Well, so the thing is you got to ask a question. I don't know what I'm supposed to respond to. I think, and this is going to sound really insensitive, I guess, but welcome to being a black person in general, I guess, is being in the conversation. Yeah, it's not a surprise. It's not a gut punch, because it's a fucking problem. I just have known that it's a problem for long enough that it's not gut punch. It's about time people are speaking about it. About time people are putting other people in their place. It's not gut punch. It's like good job. Continue to have this conversation. Just like anytime any kind of issue is raised and people are like, damn, I wouldn't have thought about that. It's not a gut punch to hear people say that, because it's like, I fucking know you didn't think about that. That's why we're having this conversation right fucking now. So why don't you listen, as opposed to continuing to talk. But again, my perspective on it is not saying that like it's not a gut punch, because it's sad to hear, but it's sad to hear because it's the fucking truth. So you taking, like the time to explain it the way you just did almost sounds like you were expecting it not being a gut punch because I didn't feel it. And it's not that I don't feel it. It's that I am that fucking guy that will say, yo, shut the fuck up, walk away, because she doesn't want it. I've walked countless female employees out to their car, or made sure that guy is gone from the fucking place before they go anywhere, or flat out being like, you need to leave. I've always been that person. I've never not been that person. Almost threw hands with law enforcement on the scene because I found out about a situation that had happened and it made it worse, because I am that person. So these topics to me aren't gut punches. It's finally about time. Educate people, speak up, find your roar, Simba. You need to. Like, that's the way it just goes. And now maybe that conversation gets elevated to the point where, it's similar to when black people say Black Lives Matter, and it hits somebody so fucking hard, and now they're having an argument because they don't understand the concept. And it's like, the fact that I have to explain the concept is the fucking concept.
Yep.
So again, not a gut punch, just, this is life. That's the way that goes.
So here, Matt, is perhaps the most important question of the V interview, in my personal humble perspective, that I'm about to ask you. And if you're still here listening to this, homies, and you have anything to say about this trend or this, this topic, reach out to us, let us know, give us some episode feedback, because I certainly have had a lot to say about it on the topic, and I have to believe that so many of you guys do too. But Matt, what would you say to these men who are on TikTok, who are putting out content that not only talks down to women who are trying to explain to them why we are picking the bear, but are also going out of their way to tell us that our perspective's dumb?
Well, first off, it's like, cool your brakes, because it's a fucking social media, like, supposed to be silly question. So you yelling at anybody over it is kind of like shows exactly the situation. So like, I don't know, maybe like go back under the rock you were under. But also, I don't know, like the situation, explaining that, you know, the bear is safer because I'm less likely to get like attacked by a bear in a way that I have to live with, is like such a simple concept that should be universally accepted. Because, you know, like I said, the reason, like, you know, to follow up, because I didn't know if you were going to ask me about it or not, but to follow up on why I said if it was like my wife, a random guy, is because I assume the interpretation of this question at its root is because they're going to get attacked by one, or one is dangerous. Which one is it? And if the bear is equally as dangerous as the person in forms of attack, then I know she has a better chance of killing a man than she does a bear, because the man is going to attack, and she has the thought that the man might attack me, so she's already on edge. She doesn't know what the bear is going to do, and she's not stronger than the bear. She might not be stronger than the man, but I guarantee she kicks a man in the nuts and stabs him in his fucking throat, he's going to go down faster than the bear would. So I trust her against a bear more than I trust the man, or trust her against the man more than I trust her against a bear. It's that I don't got to run faster than the bear, I got to run faster than you. So if it's the guy, her odds putting a bear down versus putting a guy down because one of them is going to attack, I assume the guy is probably the one, you know, that's easier in that situation. But again, like, you need to like understand guys like that. It doesn't matter what you say, because the fact that they can't see it, like if I could explain the amount of times that I've had to explain just existing to those types of people, it like they don't have the like scope of their world to see it any other way until they're put into a position where they have no choice but to see it. And they want that argument because they truly believe to their core with conviction that this is the right thing. So the thing that I would have to say is just flat out like, and that's why you're who you are and they're who they are. And that's why more people are supporting this conversation for them, as opposed to coming to your profile and commenting, because you have to tell them that they're wrong in order to make them feel like they're wrong. Because in the end, dude, you're here talking, they're not on your page asking you anything, because your opinion is kind of lame and invalid in most of the world.
Well, several of them are just telling me that I'm a Jew and that I should just shut the hell up, go back in the kitchen and make a sandwich. And that already tells me that they're a lower IQ. So
no matter
those. I constantly, as part of my job, I'm reading police reports about incidents that occur where I'm just like, why do you do, like, what are we doing here? That's so stupid. That's such a dumb thing to do. I will give you all the same advice that I have had to learn the hard way. The brain cells that you will lose to try to understand the brain cells that you will lose to try to either justify the unjustifiable or understand the things or behaviors that are just completely not understandable at all are not worth it. Sometimes you just have to disengage from the conversation, which, thank you for at least pointing that part out of it too, Matt, is because there have been, as much as I know that it would be like quality content to like call out all these dudes out for the dumb, unintelligent misogynist comments that they're leaving on my videos specifically, and all videos, is like the juice is just not worth the squeeze. And there's also this like mentality of like we do not need to lower ourselves to their level. Like if there's somebody out there that wants to have a constructive and productive conversation of like coming from a place of I genuinely do not understand, but I want to learn and I want to understand, that's going to be a far more valuable and constructive conversation to engage in than just somebody that is determined to never understand where you are. So I completely agree with you on that front, Matt.
I will say that I often don't like argue with people online. It's just not my thing. Those people having those conversations in my face is a whole different thing, and we'll have I will have a conversation with that person, or I will be like, yeah, because this is a problem, and explain it face to face, because that will do more potentially than anything else. But to your point, I'm trying to find her name because I can't remember what her last name is. Ali, of course, if it's not gonna like show me the Spanganola, I think. She does parody videos, and like she does a mashup of like songs. So she'll do like one of the first ones is like she did Taylor Swift as like heavy metal. So like what a Taylor Swift song would sound like as like heavy metal.
Okay, I think I've maybe seen her before. Yeah,
so she has a ton of stuff. I love following her, and the reason I followed her was flat out like this get back video. She's like a smaller chested woman, but people decided to comment, you have no tits, you have no breasts, you have the smallest, like, are you a boy? So what she did was she blew up a picture of herself and like illustrating that she doesn't have very large breasts, and she went to those people in person and had a conversation. And I was like, that's a fucking G. And
that's some of the most gangster shit I've ever heard of, Matt.
That's a person going to these people and having a conversation, because now there's an actual person connected to this, not just a screen name or not just a bubble with a question mark in it, because that's usually what it looks like. Or like the standard. I don't need to get into the details of what those profile pictures look like because they all look the same. But there's an actual human being attached to it, and now their conversation is different. Now the way they feel is different. Another video that I really like is this kid from, I think it was South LA, and he was talking to what I would assume is Peckerwood, Aryan Brotherhood, something like that, and full face tats, all of the standards for one of them. And it's a black kid asking him a question, and he's like, do you know who I am? And he's just yelling at this kid, and the kid's just asking him like a normal everyday question, and the guy's flipping out on him, trying to resist the urge to do whatever or say whatever, and telling him he's got to get away from him because of what he believes and and this kid just kind of stands there and continues to talk to him. And those situations in person usually play out a lot differently than they do online, and that's why they play out online, because people, it's like, like me and Courtney kind of get to the point where when stuff like that happens to us, we just delete the comment and move on, because at the end of the day, like they want to get a rise out of me. They want me to be whatever. And as much as it sucks to do, it's like, dude, just kick rocks. I don't care. Like, I know that I would, like I said, I picked the bear for my kids because I don't trust, like, I don't, either way, there's no good answer there. So the bear is the safer option. I don't pick the bear because, again, for the reasons I said for my wife. But if it was any other situation, if it was, do you want to get hit by the speeding train or the like whatever it is, the like city trolley, getting drugged by the city trolley would suck, and that's an easy concept for everybody to understand. But as soon as you put a context of this thing is more dangerous than this thing because this thing has proven to be more dangerous to this singular subject. It's like, what now it's polarizing. Now it's a problem. And it's a problem because people don't want to understand that it is a problem. It's highlighting the fact that it is a problem.
I've been absolutely trying to remember the word polarizing this entire episode, so thank you for saying it, Matt. It has been polarizing. And what I would say to those men is just point blank, like, we're not dumb. Like, we understand that bears, especially when they're waking up out of hibernation, have the potential to murder and kill people. Mm-hmm. We understand how bear attacks happen. We understand what those attacks entail. We are still more fearful of men mm-hmm. than we are bears. One thing I want to also ask you maybe to do, if you are comfortable with it and Courtney is comfortable with it, is have this conversation with her, maybe report back on the next episode what her perspective is, and just like let us know how that conversation went. I'm sure it's going to be great, and I'm sure you guys are going to, because already you have demonstrated far more understanding of the female perspective. I'm really just curious about what Court has to say about this topic in general, and if she's seen anything on social media about it.
I would tend to doubt it, but I don't know. We'll see. We can have a conversation about it. I assume her answer is going to be bear, just based off of like the weirdness of the question. But also, mm-hmm. I don't know. So we'll see. I understand why this would be like a hot button issue, or why it would be like, how are you not understanding why we would pick the bear? And it shows a lack of understanding, but also like actually paying attention to like the people around them. Because I just in my own sphere of influence through my life, I could count 6 or 7 people that, not counting you, as you just, like said, that have had to deal with that in some way or another. So like if I, as one individual, know 6 or 7 people, that's already way too many people. So it's not a hard stretch for me to understand why you would pick the bear. If you have a sister, I guarantee your sister's been, like pushed up on or whatever, and like you've gotten angry. That's why they pick the bear. It shouldn't be like, again, it's not a lack of understanding of perspective. It's a lack of understanding of people around them in general is mm-hmm. what I would kind of like boil it down to. And like the simplest form is an experience besides theirs does not exist, and therefore couldn't possibly be intelligent, because that doesn't make sense. Because, like, again, I said it in the My Mind episode. How do you explain the stars to some people, to someone that's never seen them? Mm-hmm. Like, it just doesn't work.
Does not compute.
Correct. All right. Is that all you got?
That is all I have on the topic. I'm calling it a net positive just because of the conversations that it's forced and the loud and proud and vocal women that have been putting content out on the topic. I'm very encouraged by it, and I hope it continues.
Yeah. If you have an opinion on this and you want to chime in, obviously, like, our social media is the place to go. You can write in the show notes, click the link, and it'll take you somewhere where you can write it in. Leave a voice message. You could do that too. I want to credit our listeners and like super like long shot hope that nobody listening to this episode or listening to this podcast wouldn't understand that, because
100%,
like, it just doesn't seem like the demographic that would be tuning into these episodes. And if you're tuning into this episode because the title of this episode is that thing, and you were hoping that we were going to be like, well, women are stupid because the bear is definitely not the right choice. That man is going to get you to safety. That man is going to do all of the things you need to do. And, you're going to be able to have a fire. He'd probably kill that bear, honestly. Like, that's not the conversation. That's like, that's not it. That ain't the point, man. So hopefully you learned a little bit and realized that, like, the thought process to their answer is not, oh, well, the human is safer because it's a human. The bear's got claws. That's not the answer. The answer is, well, I have to do a lot of thinking and answer this intelligently because my knee-jerk reaction is, well, how dangerous is the man? And if I have to ask how dangerous the man is, I already know how I can quantify how dangerous the bear is. So the bear. That's just what it is. I don't know.
Just a testament to this podcast and all of the blood, sweat, and tears that has gone into it. Homies, we love you. We hear you. Please let us know your perspective, whether you agree, disagree, whatever. We love you so much.
We'll do it as a poll, actually, because I have a poll option. So go vote for the poll, and then that'll make it easy. So yeah, with that, bye.
Bye, homies.
The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.